We're looking for a new church home for a variety of reasons, and I'm struggling to know what's the priority. A fit for our kids in terms of a great youth group that's big enough with them for friends and relationships, somewhere that's truly local, close to our home, that we're able to truly do life with those who attend church, or just a church with solid teaching. Is it possible to find all three?
Well, honestly, if you're searching for a new church, it is hard. And the main thing you've got to keep in mind is that no church is perfect. Just like no human is perfect, no church is perfect. So you got to find a church that hits most of your boxes. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. Hey everybody, and welcome to Wire Talk. Today we're going to talk about all things church related and why church matters. We're going to talk about teenagers that maybe possibly don't want to go to church with you, what to do about that, some church hurts, and also church hopping and trying to find the right church for you. So all things considering church is what we're going to be diving into today on Wire Talk. So join us right now. Can't wait.
Well, hello and welcome to Wire Talk. If you don't know who this voice is, you're thinking, I thought I was listening to Karen Stubbs. Well, I'm the host, Emily, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm actually Karen's daughter, and this is officially my first full year I've officially finished the first full year of Wire Talk hosting.
Yes.
And it's been fabulous.
It's crazy.
It's been fun.
Has it been? You were a little nervous whenever you first started.
A little. I was a lot nervous, and I didn't think, I told my mom, I was like, I'll give it 1 month. And she was like, let's give it 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'll give it 3. And then so far,
you're doing a great job.
I really do love it. It's been a lot of fun.
Tell me a lot. They really like hearing your voice. I think they just like our relationship and seeing an adult daughter and mom that actually love each other and get along and are in each other's lives. So.
I was talking to my cousin Caitlin, and she said, you threw it like in a Taylor Swift. I said, hey, it's me. It's hi. I'm the problem. It's me. And you're like, yeah. But I was throwing in a Taylor Swift reference, and mom was like, I didn't even understand it. So it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
She's like, I kind of keep it young.
You
keep it practical. I keep it young.
I love it.
But we've been off. Well, I've been off for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Did take a minute. We did January, but I don't know why it just felt like forever since I've been in the studio.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It took me a while to get everything.
Because we record a month early. So, and I did all of December myself. You weren't a part of that. So, yeah, it's been a month since you've been in here.
But I'm glad to be here. It's been fun, and I've loved the content that we're talking about this month. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
So how are you, Mom?
I'm good. I'm ready to start the new year. I love a new year. I mean, I always feel like we're starting over fresh. For me, January and then August, September are like the two new fresh starts for me, like school, when school starts back.
Why August? But I see, because it's a school.
Yeah, when school starts back, it just feels like a fresh start to me.
Yeah. Especially
whenever y'all were school age.
Well, I do think it's funny because we are like, January 1, it's going to be such a great day. I know this is February. This is being aired February 6th. But January 1, where you had all these great plans. You were going to do these things with Dad. And then Kelsey had to go to the hospital. Mm-hmm. Kevin was going out of town. I'm literally on the phone with Mom because I call her all the time. And I'm driving down 400, which is like our main state highway. And I hit this massive rock.
Yeah, and Emily's like, I gotta go.
And I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta go. And when I say it tore my tire up, I mean, it is embarrassing. I called my husband. I was like, well, so I just got a new car and the tire is destroyed. So I'm sorry about that. And welcome to 2024.
Yeah. And then Brian brought the kids over for me to watch them. And then while I was watching them, it wasn't their fault. I was just bending down, picking up some trash on the floor, and I threw my back out. So January 1 was not a good day for the Stubbs family as a whole.
But we got through it.
Yes.
It's going to be okay.
It's been great so far.
We just have to get through that hump. Just get all of it out of the way.
It was nuts.
Right?
It was nuts.
So we're talking about church hurt. That's some deep stuff, isn't it?
Well, it is. But the church ends up hurting a lot of people. I mean, because humans run the church.
Yeah, we kind of forget that.
And I'm all about the church. I think the church is amazing and wonderful. But I do think I realized a long time ago that as long as humans are running it, there's going to be hurt involved. Now, we can't get stuck in our hurt. We need to push on and work through the hurt.
Right.
But yeah.
So is there ever a season in your life when your relationship in the church was hard or you struggled to get involved at church or be at a peace at the church you were attending? Ever in your life?
I think my pastor growing up, I really admired him a lot, and he was great and wonderful. And I wasn't ready for this question, but that's okay. Whenever I was in college, and he did a retreat for the college group, and I was asking him, we were talking about my dad, and he said, I need to reach out to your dad because he, was one of my best friends and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, that's so great. Dad's going through a hard time, and I think that would really mean a lot to him. And then he did not reach out to Dad.
Oh.
And so then I, in pure Karen fashion, went and talked to him about it and just said, you told me you were going to reach out. I told my dad you were going to reach out, and you didn't.
Yeah.
And that really bothered me. And so he looked at me and he said, I promise I will do that. And he didn't the second time. And I think it just sort of burst my bubble of he was so amazing and so wonderful. But then God just really used that whole scenario and showed me like he is fallible, but you can trust me, God.
Right.
And you don't need to ever put a man on a higher pedestal than me. And honestly, that, even though I was very young, I was probably 20 years old, that really stuck with me my whole life. So whenever we did go through hard times in our churches, we had a church in Virginia where the pastor fell in immorality stuff, and we were, had to walk through that and all. I just realized, like, I don't need to put anybody on a pedestal. So, yes, I've been hurt, but I've also healed from the hurt. And I know that it's important to keep pushing through the hurt and keep your eyes on God the whole time, regardless.
For sure.
Yeah. How about you?
Yes. I think also I'm thinking of like high school years.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was more of like I had small group leaders and they left. And I looking back, I'm like, I see why they left, but that really did hurt because they said they were going to be with me for 4 years and they left after 2, and that hurt. And then certain people just growing up, they change. And I'm like, I thought this was the kind of person you were. And then, I think, and I would get stuck in it, and you would just be like, Emily, when it was like the selfish side of why I got hurt, like in high school, you just said, you're only seeing one side of this story. And I was like, okay. Because in my situation, they weren't sinning. They just had different things in their life. Like they got married or they moved. But that hurt me because they promised me they were going to be there for 4 years.
Right.
And I, like, you hear the selfishness?
Yeah.
I
hear the youngness.
Yes. And it was my small group, and I had the friends, and it was, and this was also the end of my sophomore year, going into junior year.
Kelsey, it was an important time.
Kelsey was leaving for college. I had to figure out my own self. And so my home world was changing. I was in school by myself for the first time without Kelsey. And now I had church by myself without Kelsey. So I was like, oh, my whole world is falling apart. So you just kept pushing me like, hey, God knows what he's doing. And he truly did. Like, I loved my small group leader for freshman, sophomore year, but my junior, senior year, God brought 2 rock star women into my life, and
that are still involved in your life.
Still involved, and I still love dearly. That just spoke an infamous amount of wisdom that I truly needed.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes you kind of get out. I had to get out of my selfishness.
Well, I just think that's part of all of it.
Yeah.
I think that anytime we are working with people and investing in their lives, they're investing in our life, there's going to be disappointment. There's going to be hurt.
Yeah.
But we just have to, unfortunately, sometimes rise above, forgive, and move on, and just keep our eyes on God because he's the main one. I mean, church is just a place where we gather and we have a common core of God, but we don't ever need to make church our God.
Right.
If that makes sense. So
that's true.
Yeah.
So, well, are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
I was listening to a podcast, yours actually, and you say dive in a lot.
Do we?
Yeah.
Do I?
Yeah, you do. You're like, let's dive in. I'm like, all right, let's dive in.
Let's go deep.
Dive in.
Listen, I'm all about the deep. You know that.
I know. It does remind me of that. Is it the Stephen Curtis Chapman?
Yeah.
I'm diving in. I'm going deep.
Yeah,
All right.
that's true.
Well, I won't lead you into song, but I will go to the first question.
Lead us into song. Emily.
Question 1. I'm married to my husband of 20 plus years, and we have 2 teenagers, 16 and 19. We used to go to church on a very regular basis, and we're very close with our church family and friends. However, my kids were hurt in several situations over the past years and lost church friends. Additionally, my husband and I were caught up in the drama of family leaving the church for messy reasons, and we're pretty much cut off because we still associated with this family. Long story short, we've not been attending church regularly since. I know I need a church more than ever right now, and I want to start going back to church, but my kids really, really don't want to go, and it's stressful to try to make them. I feel guilty going without them, but then at least I'm setting the example. Should I be forcing them to go? Punishing them for not going to church seems so counterintuitive. Any advice you can offer would be so helpful. Thank you from this weak, frail mama.
Oh, just want to give her a hug. And you know what? This is hard because when your children have been hurt like this, it's really hard. And it's hard to get them to see a different perspective because they can only see it from their perspective. Sort of like what you were talking.
Kind of like me.
Yeah. So I think I would call a family meeting. And I would just have a very open discussion, and I would let everybody know, like, this is a safe environment. I want us all to be open and honest and keep our emotions, at bay. And let's just talk through the whole situation and let the teenagers share what they feel, what's going on, what happened, and let it just be a safe environment. Then I would also share, like, well, we've been hurt as well. And share part of that, and the mom and dad can decide how much they want to share. But I think the dad and the mom just need to lead out that we have been praying about this, and we really feel like we need to be in church. Now, whether we go to our old church or we find a new church, we just need to be in church and give them the reasons why. I think that's important. We can't just tell our teenagers, this is what we're going to do, and not tell them the why behind the reason, okay? So we need to tell them why. This is why we're going to go back. This is why we're going to make this investment and open up our hearts again to possibly getting hurt, but also being fed. So this is why it's important. And then I would just say, you know what? We're going to give it a year, and we want y'all to go with us. Y'all are in our family. You live under our roofs. But every Sunday, like if we're traveling and going to new churches, I want your feedback. Like I want you to say, I like the music. I didn't like the preacher. I didn't like the people, whatever it is, or I like this or I like that and I don't, whatever. Let them speak in, and you and your husband share y'all's thoughts and feelings too. And then after a year, I would come back together and then decide what you're going to do as a family. Because in a year, that 19-year-old's going to be 20, maybe not be living in your house.
Right.
So I just think it's time to don't put it in a forever mark. But for right now, this is what we're going to do. And this is why.
I'm going to get to the practical side of that question real quick. But why do you think it's important for you to ask your teen, like you're saying, ask them what they are feeling, like a frank conversation, but also them giving their feelings and how they've been hurt? Why do you think it's both? It's helpful for the children to like hear the parent side of it.
Oh, the parent side? Because it helps them realize that you're human too.
Okay.
And that you've been hurt, but you are making a choice to move forward.
Okay.
I think in parenting, we have to model how the teens and children need to respond. And a lot of times we skip that step. And it's a very important step.
Yeah.
I mean, just like last night, Kelsey said, I got frustrated, I fussed, but then I said I was sorry. And she felt so bad, for losing her cool on her kids. And I just said, the important thing, or I think you said that in the text, the important thing is that you apologize.
Right.
Our children need to see, hey, moms do mess up, but then they circle back and they apologize. So many times they don't hear the apology or they don't hear the real feelings behind it. But whenever you hear, oh, I got mad because I was frustrated and had to do all this extra work and all that, it makes sense. Like, but the fact that you circle back and say, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
But for them to hear, we've been hurt too, but we're going to move forward.
Right.
Because our relationship with God is more important than all that we've experienced.
Okay.
So we're going to move forward.
I knew you had a reason, and I needed you to model and tell me why.
I tell you, that's right.
So what would you give practical advice for this sweet, it makes me want to hug her. She says, from this weak, frail mama. How could you give her practical advice this week?
I would pray about the situation, and then I would call your family meeting.
Okay.
But you and your husband need to join together in prayer first, and then call the family meeting.
Hey there, moms and friends of teenage girls. I'm so excited to share that our very own Karen Stubbs has a brand new book out called Moments with God for Teen Girls. You know that as mom to 3 grown daughters, Karen has a wealth of wisdom when it comes to the struggles and the inner life of teenage girls. This devotional is designed to help our girls grow closer to God and look to His Word for answers to their questions. Each of the 100 devotions is crafted with care, featuring a prayer, scripture, reflection questions, and even journaling pages to guide your daughter's devotional time. If you're looking to encourage your daughter in her faith this year, or if you need a meaningful gift for the teenage girl in your life, head over to boaw.mom/teengirls. That's boaw.mom/teengirls. Let's encourage the next generation to find truth and peace by spending time seeking God. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
Question 2. I have 3 daughters, 17, 15, and 13, who are saying they get nothing out of our pastor's message. They love Jesus, pray and read their Bibles daily, love conversations about the Bible and what it means for their lives in our world. They're just looking for a way out of church. They are asking for a different church. We live in a small town, and getting involved in other churches in other towns would make it difficult to build community due simply to logistics.
There you go. Well, this is a great question, and so many good things are going on in this question. First off, she's got daughters who love to dive in deeper.
This is great.
And learn and grow. They are curious, and they have a desire, and that's such a blessing. And I totally hear what she's saying about the other churches, and it's hard in a small town, and going outside the town, it just makes it further to drive and all that kind of stuff. That makes sense. But I think there's a few things she can do. You can stay in your church and encourage your girls to get outside pastors, like on YouTube or the radio or Right Now Media, deeper teaching. And then I would also challenge your girls, like, why don't you just start praying that God would show you one thing out of this sermon instead of focusing on how not deep the pastor is and how he's not challenging you and all these things. Why don't we focus on what God is going to do through these sermons?
Right.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Sort of encourage them to step up. Like I sort of had to do this with Taylor because he was like, I feel like I know. It's such a teenager thing. I feel like I know everything, and I've already know what they're going to say. I've been in youth group since my freshman year, and they're starting to repeat the messages. And I'm like, Taylor, you can be mature in this, and you can always learn something. You do not know everything about the Bible yet. And he was like, yeah, I guess you're right. To challenge your teen girls that I'm so glad that you have a great walk with the Lord, that you're knowledgeable of the Bible, and then we have such great conversations. So why don't you use that leadership skills in the church and try to learn something from your pastor? We can always learn something. And then the other thing is, if you do decide to go outside, just know, hey, we're going to go outside our community. It's going to take longer to get to church and maybe a harder time to build community, but we're going to make this effort because it's important to you girls, and we want y'all to be challenged.
That's great. Great advice. So what's one practical thing this mom can do this week to initiate some relationships with her daughters?
Once again, I would just pray about it before I go and have the conversation with my girls. And then I would just say, I want to help you find the solution to this problem. So let's just try to devise a plan. And once again, the plan doesn't have to be a forever plan. It could just be a 6-month plan or a year plan, and then you reassess after that. You never know what the Holy Spirit's going to do.
That's true.
Once you open up your mind and your heart to where He's leading.
Yeah, I remember one time, I think I was stuck in something. I don't remember the situation, but you said, Emily, don't put God in a box.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not. And you're like, well, you are. So
because we all do that. We decide, oh, he can't do this, and this isn't going to happen, and this will never be.
Yeah.
But that's putting God in a box.
Yeah.
We're telling God, you can't do this, and God can do anything.
Right. So that's really great.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to do a shameless plug because she said teenage girls. You do have a brand new teenage devotional that has come out, and it's 100 devotions. You wrote it specifically for teen girls.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, moms. Like, it's so pretty. It's got this gorgeous pink floral look to it, and the pages are pink, and oh my goodness, they're so pretty. So
thank you.
I'm pretty sure you can order it through the store.
Yep, it's available and ready.
Yep. And if you're like, I kind of want to just dive in, see what it's about, there is a 10-day reading plan on YouVersion that you can just preview it. So,
and it's called Moments with God for Teen Girls.
It's so good.
Thanks.
It's so pretty. All right. This next question is long, so just
hang in there.
Hold on. So, all right, question 3. Recently, I've been conflicted about the church we've been attending for the past 20 years. The youth/Sunday school program is practically non-existent. After a long time pastor left, we had a few interim pastors, and after COVID, attendance is dramatically down. My husband and I are involved in leadership, but trying to get people to participate has always been a struggle. I'm a green-blue, so leading a group is not in my comfort zone, but I've done it a lot over the years because no one is seeming to step up. I'm heartbroken for my girls. They are teens and tweens. When the youth programs start and stop due lack of participation, I'm burned out by constantly giving and not getting any support for help in return. One daughter was invited by a friend to a nearby church for a youth program, and she said over 50 kids attended. I've recently considered trying out this new church, but feel a sense of obligation to give an incoming new minister a chance. I feel that if we leave, it would be a severe blow to the church. There are few families with kids that regularly attend. Any advice?
This is a hard question because it's multifaceted. It's not just
should they leave?
Should they leave or what they should do? It's if they are involved, the church is small, they are a pillar in the church, so then they feel extra pressure that the church is going to rise or fall on their attendance. Not rise or fall, but it will be greatly impacted.
Yeah.
In a small church, when a pillar of the church leaves, it's hard. It's a blow. But I think you've got to put your girls over the church.
Yeah.
I know it's hard and I know it's difficult, but if you are admitting that the Sunday school program is lacking and is almost non-existent, then that's not very exciting for a teen to want to go to. And you got to think about it this way, moms and dads. Whenever your teens don't want to go to church, then they're not going to go, they're not going to learn, and then their relationship with the Lord has the potential to just completely stop. And you don't want that to happen.
No.
You want it to keep, because once we sort of harden our heart to the Lord, it's hard to open it back up because it gets callous. So I would just pray really hard that God would open up your heart and your mind to something new, and just tell God, I'm willing to do whatever. I'm willing to leave this church and go to another one, and if that's the best fit for my girls, but I need you to guide me. I need you to show me in everything. And then I would also just tell your girls, hey, we've been involved in this church for 20 years. It's very important in our lives, but you guys are more important than the church. So if you really want to go and attend this church that has 50 students in their youth program, we can understand that. So we're going to try it. Here's the other thing. If they've got this new pastor coming in, this interim pastor, if you stay and then decide to leave, it's going to be even more awkward.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know you at this point. It's better to go whenever you don't know him, you haven't established a relationship and all that. And if you do know him by this point, I don't know when she wrote in this question, I would just go to him and say, hey, we really love this church, and we'll probably be back after our girls graduate from high school. But for right now, we got to do what's best for our family, and that is getting them more involved in a larger youth group. And if he says, just give me 2 years, and I would just say, I don't think we have 2 years.
Right.
You know, I really don't. And we've got to do what's best for our kids, period. So I know it's hard. But I have seen families, if you don't want to leave, if you're just like, we've been here 20 years, we can't do it. I have seen families that have let their students go to a different church for youth program and then just do the other stuff like Christmas and all that with their family. But that's splitting everybody up. But if that's what works for your family, then you got to do what's best.
So what would you tell this sweet mom?
You got to be flexible, and you got to pray and ask for God to give you an open mind, because if she's been doing something for 20 years and she's a blue-green, it's going to be hard to change. Greens don't like change. Blues don't like change. It's going to be hard. So you just need to pray, God, give me the courage of what I need to do for what's best for my family.
You just feel the heaviness in all these questions,
sure.
too.
It's hard. It's not easy stuff.
I know. It's okay. All right. This is our last question for today.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. Mom, let's dive in.
Let's dive in, Emily. You're so funny.
Question 4. We're looking for a new church home for a variety of reasons, and I'm struggling to know what's the priority. A fit for our kids in terms of a great youth group that's big enough with them for friends and relationships, somewhere that's truly local, close to our home, that we're able to truly do life with those who attend church, or just a church with solid teaching. Is it possible to find all three? If you are searching for a church, do we take all the kids to a new place each week? It feels a little overwhelming to get each of them signed up into different kids' ministries and gear them up to be a newcomer somewhere we go each week. But I wouldn't want to choose a new church without having them having some input on what they liked and disliked, the youth aspect of somewhere new. What do you think? Thank you for your time. I learned so much from you.
Aw,
Sweet
thank you. Well, honestly, if you're searching for a new church, it is hard. And the main thing you've got to keep in mind is that no church is perfect. Okay, just like no human is perfect, no church is perfect. So you got to find a church that hits most of your boxes. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. All right. The other question, part 2, was, do we take the kids and enroll them every week or check them as a visitor every week? And that seems overwhelming and all of that. Yeah, you do. Because your kids really do need to be a part. They need to see they need to see the struggle. And they need to have a voice in, I like this and I didn't like that. And this is what I liked and this is what I didn't like. And that also creates great conversations in the car ride home or the car ride to church. Y'all are all talking about it and everybody feels like they have a voice. And that's important, I think, in a family. And then the mom and dad, of course, can decide, okay, we've heard what everybody says. This is what we feel is going to be the best for our family. And this is the reason why. So that's what I do. I know it can be a lot. It's just a lot of extra filling out paperwork and all that every single time, every single church. But kids are resilient and they can do it. Don't let your overwhelmingness flow into their world.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes we as adults are overwhelmed and we sort of blame it. Oh, they can't do it, but they can do it. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not that hard.
So how would you encourage this mom this week?
I would just once again pray. I know that's the theme for the week on prayer, but I would pray about it and I would also keep a very open mind.
Well, I mean, I think when you're involving church, you do have to pray a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's probably why that's a lot of your answers
You're
this
making
week.
a big decision.
Making a big decision.
You want God's guidance.
For sure. For sure. Well, moms, thank you so much for taking your sweet time to be listening to us. And whether you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, or whatever podcast platform you chose to listen to us, we are so grateful. Make sure you check out YouTube to watch the whole show if you want to see what outfits we're wearing or anything like that. The show notes have all of the stuff that we've talked about, the teen devotional and other things like that. If you have more questions, check us out at birdsonawire.moms.com, and we cannot wait to see you next week. See ya. Bye.